The heart of leadership. What is the heart of leadership? Hey, this is Tim Feeder, and you are listening to Leadership Podcast. You see, John Maxwell said everything rises and falls with leadership. It took me a long time to realize that John knew exactly what he was talking about. The leader who influences people, the leader who influences the outcomes of any specific team, whether it's the influence that leads to success or the influence that leads to failure. It ultimately comes down to that leader. In leading various groups over the years, I've come to understand that there are certain fundamental principles that applies to any group, particularly when it comes to leadership. But I've also come to understand that every team has a dynamic that affects how a leader can influence them. So I love this definition by Dr. J. Robert Clinton. And it says, leadership is a dynamic process in which a man or woman with God-given capabilities and capacity influences a specific group of God's people towards God's purpose for that group. Why I love that is because it highlights that there's a dynamic process that has to line up with a particular team, because people are not always the same. People are dynamic. Therefore, the leader has to follow a dynamic process in influencing any particular team, any particular group of people. So from leading a worship ministry, worship team, to be sitting on a board, finance board, sitting on an eldership team, pastoral team, to now leading a church, I've come to understand that there is no method and formula that applies to every group universally, because people are dynamic. So one has to be able to look at a specific group and realize what is the dynamics of that group. What are the people made up of? What are the gifts that sit within that group? How are people wired? What makes them excited? What makes them fearful? What inspires them? And what demotivates them? The other part of this definition that I really enjoy is the fact that it's a God-given capacity that He gives to a specific person in order to lead a specific group in a specific way. You see, over the years, I've come to understand I have capacity that I've grown in over the years, that God has allowed me to be able to learn how to lead 10 people, how to lead 20 people, to the worship ministry that I led of over 200 people, to a church of over 300 people. At every point, God allows my capacity to grow in order to fulfill that which He has called me to influence. So I'll give you an example of a group that I took over, worship ministry, from a very dynamic, charismatic predecessor, and I stepped into the role of leadership with over 200 people that I had to now lead into a direction. Following the footsteps of a charismatic leader who was very influential and very successful in mobilizing people towards a specific goal. That's why that ministry could grow to over 200 people. And it was well-oiled, well-oiled machine running administratively. You can just imagine administration would have been one big factor within a group that size. But there's one thing that I noticed when my predecessor left. As charismatic and successfully charismatic he was to influence people towards a specific goal, he wasn't able to raise people to the point where they were able to do not just what he was able to do, but they were able to do far beyond what he was able to do. And so the Lord taught me something about leadership. In fact, about the way Jesus led. Jesus took 3.5 years to walk with 12 men. In those 3.5 years, he displayed to them, demonstrated to them, a leadership style that was not only influencing them towards the goal, but was empowering them to be able to do far and beyond that which he displayed to them. In fact, it's in John 14, verse 12, where Jesus says, "Verily, verily, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father." A dynamic leader who is able to influence a group of people towards a specific goal has to also be able to empower people to go beyond that which he could ever go or ever do. And that makes that leader a powerful leader. A leader who makes room. A leader who is not insecure. A leader who is able to step back and say, I will allow this environment to empower people, those who follow me, to go beyond that which I can do. And so I had to ask myself this question over the years. Tim, are you influential? Are you able to mobilize people towards a specific God-given goal? Most times I could say yes. But then I had to ask myself the next question, which I believe is the heart of leadership. Tim, are you secure enough as a leader to allow people to grow way beyond even your capacity and your capabilities? And man, I tell you, I'm still learning. So, what is the heart of leadership? For me, the heart of leadership is the ability to influence people towards a specific goal, God-given goal, with a secure heart to allow them to be empowered beyond whatever you could ever do. So thank you for your time. Till next time, this is Tim Peter. God bless.